You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
This episode of Agave Road Trip was recorded live in front of an audience of 2 at the Is Was Brewing Tasting Room on Ravenswood in Chicago. If, you can actually call 2 people playing skee ball an audience.
Hey, Gringex Chicagoans. I'm Linda from Cena Secreto. If you are in the neighborhood, you should look up Cena Secreto on Instagram. See if I'm hosting any dinners or tastings upcoming. Can't wait to see ya. Seyna Secreto. Secret with an O.
The Southern Highlands of Jalisco had become known for delicious tequila. But back in 1937, before anyone was paying attention to the delicious agaves growing in this community, Indalecio Núñez Muro planted his flag here and began making tequila. His descendants are still making it here today under their family-owned brand, Tequila El Viejito, under the watchful eye and exceptional palate of Maestra Tequilera Karina Rojo. Tequila El Viejito both preserves the traditions of tequila making in Jalisco's Southern Highlands and also preserves the environment. In addition to earning state certification as a green enterprise, Tequila El Viejito has initiated a program in which they're beginning to germinate their agave from seed, an endeavor meant to preserve genetic diversity of the key ingredient to tequila. So grab a bottle of the original tequila from Jalisco's Southern Highlands. Grab a bottle of Tequila El Viejito today. I'm Lou Bang.
I'm Linda Sullivan.
And this is Agave Road Trip, the
critically acclaimed, award-winning podcast
that helps Gringex bartenders better understand agave.
Agave spirits.
And rural Mexico.
We're going to make that into a new theme song one day.
Yeah, okay. Hey, so, Linda, way back, this is Roy's opportunity to do little wavy sounds.
Back in the day.
Back in October 2023, I recorded an episode with Khrys Maxwell titled The CRT Loses Their Tequila Monopoly.
I actually remember this episode.
Do you really?
Yeah, there was a lot of content in it that I didn't understand. I might have listened twice. Raise your hand, Gringex bartenders, if I'm not alone.
It's kind of perfect. So you might remember then that it was based on a court decision that, that the whole episode. And I said in that episode, again, October 2023, that we were just weeks away from a second body being allowed to certify tequila.
That's great.
Yes.
Not exactly the magic 8 ball that we thought you were.
Yeah. Well, I would say that has more to do with things take a longer time in Mexico sometimes.
True, too.
Yeah. So here we are some 18 months later, and it's happened.
You were just a little off on the timing.
Just a little off. Anyway, so, I thought this would be a good opportunity. And, anybody that wants to listen to that episode, I'll have a link to it in the episode page for this one. But it's also season 4, episode 11. But I thought, it'd be a good time to revisit this and talk about what we think the result of this ruling could be.
Ooh, let's make more predictions that we can later disprove.
Yeah, I like that.
Yes,
I like that.
I'm in.
I had a group reach out to me asking me for a quote as to what I thought it meant. Right. And so this is why I thought we should record this episode, because they forced me to think about something I wouldn't have thought of otherwise.
You should just sent him the episode with Khrys. Here's my quote.
Well, so yeah, there's that. But, so before we get into it, you and I, as we were prepping in our very intensive way for this, suggested to me that maybe you didn't fully understand what this was.
I think that the legal side or whatever kind of grouping in all of the world of agave spirits and things that are related, right? The legal side is something that when I teach, I fully gloss over. Right. I will definitely answer questions about that.
Yeah.
I will often, and I use the tool of comparing agave spirits a lot from the kind of terroir angle, comparing to wine, which is a nice help because folks tend to know wine.
Yeah.
Folks in the United States, they know wine in whatever capacity. But I will use that in this scenario as well. I will often say champagne is champagne only when made in Champagne, right? You step right on the other side of the fence, make it exactly the same way, and it's sparkling wine. So I think that kind of illustration helps people understand within the boundary, Mezcal, without, right? Then we can talk about destilado de agave distillate, that sort of thing. Same with tequila. But I rarely, if ever, go into any more legal details because I don't want to lose them, Lou. And because it's certainly not my highest area of expertise.
Sure. Both of those things are valid points. And I wouldn't claim to even understand champagne, but one of the things that I like to talk about in that particular conversation is bourbon. Right? Because we have, it's not, I think, literally called a denomination of origin, but the USA has rights to use the word bourbon for whiskeys that follow certain rules. But the significant difference is there's no certifying body for bourbon.
Yeah. Oh, so bourbon is like tequila when they got their when tequila got their denomination of origin in the 70s.
Well, I think actually before that.
Or maybe before.
Yeah.
But then went more than a few decades without anyone ruling any body.
Let me walk back what I
Roll
just
it back.
said.
Roll it back.
Okay, that's Roy doing the backwards. But I would say that I think maybe they didn't get the denomination of origin as an international. We own tequila, right? I don't think they got that until the 70s, but they had their own internal regulations within Mexico that said that if you call it tequila, these are the rules, right? The norma.
Yep.
And so it's sort of the same thing here for bourbon in the USA, where we have these rules, and in essence, the TTB lets you go so long as nobody calls you out on it.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's where, that's the only regulation that's coming in is when you get to that level of the TTB, and they'll just kind of let it.
The Tax and Trade Bureau of the USA. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Then they'll let it slide if it doesn't flag.
Well, they'll trust you.
That you're doing it right. They won't dig in.
Yeah.
Unless they're alerted to it. Yeah. And then they'll do their job. They'll come get you.
Yeah. So the issue with tequila is you've got this body, the CRT, that gets to decide, is your distillery certifiable for making tequila? Mm-hmm. And, that's based on a number of things, geography being a big piece of it, but not the sole piece. But then they also get to decide whether or not what you're making, the agave spirit you're making, can actually be called tequila based on whether or not it follows the rules outlined in that norma.
It's sort of like check boxes. Do you check the boxes where we say you must use this method or et cetera?
Yeah. Let's not get too far into that. Right. So, the issue comes up now where you've got all these expenses that you're paying as a distillery to make tequila. And even if you're like, this is the thing that Khrys was bringing up in that last episode back in October 2023, that even if you pause production, you have to pay the CRT for continue the certification, right?
Oh, really? It's sort of like you have to reinstate, or you mean you have to pay for the time when you're paused?
It's constant.
Oh, I see. Not only the time when you need them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, but then the other piece that I think is more significant, given the timing here, is You've got this fight going on right now. It's a really public fight between the CRT and the Additive-Free Alliance, which used to be, I guess it's a nonprofit that spun off from Tequila Matchmaker doing that additive-free tequila program.
Right.
And in essence, the CRT is suing them for what in essence is trademark infringement. Using the word tequila when they don't have the legal standing.
I see, right.
To
The
use
only
word.
legal standing to use it is the CRT. And so they're saying the Additive Free Alliance is marking tequila, not tequila, additive free, not, and they're not allowed to. Do you think they're going to win that?
Oh, I have no idea. Like here again, like we're all about speculation. And if I had to speculate, I would say that this move makes it, in my mind, more likely, this addition now of a second certifying body, and I think there's a third and a fourth coming hot on those heels.
Oh, okay.
I think that, in essence, could be the thing that separates the CRT from from the legal standpoint in the USA. You would say they don't really have standing, in essence, right?
Okay.
Like how does it damage you? You're just one of 4 certifying bodies. Now, if the Mexican government wants to say, hey, that's not cool, then that's a different fight, right?
Do you have any, or tell me if this is not the direction we're going, do you have any idea, like the other bodies that are coming up to add to, to break the monopoly essentially, is it by region? Is it by how do they decide whose area is whose?
Well,
will it be price competition?
No, it's not. It's not like somebody gets one state, somebody gets another.
No.
It's literally, there'll be these competing bodies and they could all be located literally in the same building.
Okay, but it'll be like an open market more.
Which is this is what happened with tequila, it did happen with tequila, but it happened with Mezcal back in in 2021. It happened with Mezcal. Yeah, and so the thing that I find interesting about that is, right, like, because to me that's sort of the comparison, right?
Which is interesting because, I don't know, in the narrative, tequila does a lot of things first. I'm air quoting first, right? And Mezcal it then kind of follows. So it's a curious detail that this process of expanding the number of regulating bodies happened on the Mezcal, in the Mezcal side of things first.
Yeah,
before tequila.
Yeah, my theory actually is, so the lawyer who led the charge on both of these, the same guy.
Oh.
Yeah, Alberto.
Do you think he was like, hey, I had success on that, I'm going to move over to the tequila side and make it happen?
Oh, I think quite the opposite. I think, so Alberto Esteban Marina, or Alberto Marina Esteban, he used to be in charge of all the normas in Mexico under Vicente Fox. Right? He's literally the guy who wrote NOM 199.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so like this is his area of expertise. And I think, in fact, he went after Mezcal first, or the CRM, I should say, not Mezcal.
Right.
Went after CRM first because they don't have the firepower that the CRT has, and he sets precedent that way. That's my theory.
Oh, that's very
smart.
clever.
Yeah,
very
yeah,
clever.
Yeah. So I think that's what he was doing. And when I look at what happened as a result of that change with the CRM, that ending of the monopoly of the CRM, which is now called Comercam, and I think about what's changed in the market, if you look at the numbers, like in 2020, to me, the relevant change that I care about, right, is does it mean that you get more people outside of Oaxaca making mezcal?
Right. Does it give a better representation?
Yeah, well, and take some of the pressure off
scope
of Oaxaca.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's how I look at it.
Okay.
And so then, and I think about that in terms of the CRT as well, because right now something like 95% of all tequila is made in Jalisco.
Right, it's the same scenario, essentially, Jalisco and Oaxaca, in a lot of ways.
The difference is that the amount of tequila that's made is something like 50 times that.
Over, yeah.
And so the impact is significantly greater on the environmental pressure.
Yes. Okay,
so so my great hope would be, okay, great. So now you've got these competing bodies. So now maybe you start getting more distilleries locating in other states, because there are parts of 4 other states beyond Jalisco where you can certify your agave spirit as tequila.
Yes.
That would be my great hope, right?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. You know, I'm geeky about that.
Yeah.
Has that happened, though?
With Mezcal? That's the question. So I'm looking at these numbers, right? So in 2020, the year before the change, 92.7% of all Mezcal was made in Oaxaca. Okay. So there was
It's going to be like 0.1%. That's my guess. That's my
0.1%.
speculation right now. Like really small. I'm worried that it's going to be so much smaller than we want it to be. Let's see.
Oh, it definitely is smaller, but so then the very next year when this happens, suddenly it drops down to 85.4%.
Oh,
so
that's great. 7%?
Yeah, 7 percentage points. Yeah, it was the drop, but the very next year it went back up. And, last year, 2023, we don't have the 2024 numbers yet. 2023, it was up to 90.51%. So, basically like 2 percentage points difference.
So what happened? Did some folks try it and not succeed?
I don't know.
Man.
You see a huge jump in Zacatecas and then it kind of disappears. And I wonder if somebody thought they could get into the game
and it didn't work out, or they didn't have enough of a sustainable plan that took them out. Oh man, I'm so curious.
Yeah, but what you do see is now much more being produced in Puebla, which I think is honestly mainly a result of Del Maguey. Making their Vida Puebla.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, if you go back in the history, I think so much of the structure of I get, what do you call it? The export market, or even just like the availability, right, of Mezcal in the U.S.
Yeah.
So much of it was that green bottle.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so I think that in the bigger narrative, like when we're sipping, we have a lot to, kind of thank Ron Cooper for.
Oh, for
and
sure.
that team. So when they, you become that influential and you make one move and you kind of pull some other sticky bodies with you.
Yeah. I would say using the power for good.
Yeah.
I dig that.
I do too.
And I think that's largely a result of I think their ability to do that is largely a result of the expansion of the certifying bodies. And I wouldn't say that I have no idea if Comercam is certifying for Del Maguey or not.
Right,
but even if they are the ones who are certifying, I would argue that the reason that the Comercam was open to going up to Puebla to certify is because suddenly there were competitors.
Right. So I'm wondering, I wasn't sure if this was going to be part of this conversation, but isn't it well known that some of the production facilities that are like really in the boondocks, they're out there, it is much more difficult and possibly more expensive, for them to, because you got to think an actual human has to go out there and do that. I mean, I've seen the stickers that they put on.
Stay overnight.
Right? If you
and the cost of travel and the cost of the day.
If you open up that tank or garrafone or whatever and have a sip, you got to get it recertified. Your sticker's cut, So like each time a representative has to come out, and if your closest representative is, how many 100 miles away, that can really just put a wrench in the process.
Yeah.
So in this case, I'm wonder if what you're saying, there was a different or a series of motivations, and then that, got that area more certified.
Yeah.
Overall.
Yeah. I think it has to have some connection. And so my great hope is we'll see something like that with the CRT. And, while it's disappointing to see that the difference has only been 2 percentage points, I think it's also important to recognize that significant changes rarely take place
in 1 year.
Well, or anything less than 10 years, 15 years. One of the things that I heard so frequently from mezcaleros when this opening of the other certifying bodies occurred was they didn't believe it was true. Like some of them literally didn't believe it was truth. And some of them didn't believe it was a truth that would stick. And
they were very speculative about it.
Some of them were nervous that everything would change and go back to the CRM and they'd be in trouble for trying one of the other bodies. There was a lot of that. Yeah.
Okay, that's really good. Those are like a couple of really good points to give the perspective of like, not only is this a huge change and will take time, there's also scary bits about it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And there are some, we've talked many times about some of the families companies who have a lot of generational mezcal, for example, in their history, making it, producing it, growing it, himadoring it, like all the things.
Himadoring it.
And yet...
That's a t-shirt. We're going to have to make the himadoring it t-shirt.
I would wear it. Tank top, though. Tank top, Chicago summer. But it can be scary to say, let's go out on a limb and do something different. We're going to certify this year. Or maybe we have to make this slight change. But we were hoping to. That was in our purview. Yeah. We're going to make it, but it's going to cost money. It could be scary to say, let's try. And then what happens? That's their livelihood. That their home is on their fabrica, is on their... Yeah. So I think it's heavier than I realize in America, just talking about it. Right?
Yeah. Well, and as people who just drink it, we don't, right. And the other thing that I think a lot about is, when I think about this issue is, right now you've got a lot of tequilas that have the word Cristalino on them as though that's a category. And it's not actually anywhere in the Norma. There's no such legal thing as Cristalino.
Right.
And yet, so I know a tequila company that was annoyed by that, so they just started putting the word Cristalino on their Blanco, and they were told to stop doing that.
Oh, by a regulating body?
By the CRT, the only regulating body. Right. And so now I wonder if there's with these other regulating bodies, it feels to me like one of the dangers of that is different interpretations, which makes, I think, the end product more confusing, but then also forces the Mexican government to either say, okay, there's no such thing as Cristalino, or this is what Cristalino is, and add that to the Norma.
Right. Well, it's tricky to me. One of the best potential benefits of expanding the bodies that are in charge is on that word interpretation.
Yeah.
Because there are there is no world in which I'm going to use our government as an example, but just style of structure that is set up so that the decision is not held by one large hand. We make all the interpretations about these rules move on. I would love to see more varied interpretation. Do you think that will happen with these additional regulating bodies?
Wait, more and varied interpretations, like between the bodies they'll vary it?
Yeah.
Well, that's my concern. I don't want to see that. I think these spirits are hard enough for the average consumer to understand as is.
Yeah.
What's the difference between tequila and 100% Blue Weber agave tequila? Well, one of them is 100%, the other isn't. Well, no, actually, the thing that just says tequila could be 100% Blue Weber, but it's bottled in the USA, not in Mexico. All of this gets so confused. If it says 100% Blue Weber, that means that there are no additives? Well, no. All of this stuff is already, there's so many variations on the song that I don't want to see any more variations. I think that gets confusing.
Is one of the regulating bodies going to be the boss and then the others will follow?
When you say the boss, you mean like Bruce Springsteen?
Definitely. He's in the CRT.
No, they're both just certifying bodies. So it doesn't matter.
How do they figure out?
Oh, yeah, no, go ahead and play skee ball. Well, I guess this is the point at which we should say that we are here courtesy of our friends at Iswas Brewing in their tasting room in the back room where they have skee ball. So, they have skee ball. And now everybody knows they have skee ball, so come drink beer and play skee ball.
We love that.
Yeah. So no, everybody is going to have the same standing. I'm certain it'll be a long time before there's anybody that's certifying as much as the CRT is.
Right.
But the standing will be equal.
Are they for-profit bodies?
That's a good question. I don't know. I would guess that they're for-profit. Maybe not.
Because
they're associations. So maybe it's not a for-profit.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm just curious how, thinking at the way that the rest of those details will roll out. Yeah. Will they market? Will they go into areas that the CRT has not, been as quick to service and be like, hey, we'll service you for the cheap rate of $29.99.
Speedy delivery. Yeah, that's honestly, that is my great hope. I would love to see more of these spirits coming out of Michoacan, more Michoacan tequila, right?
Yeah. Oh, gosh, of course.
Yeah.
So my greatest hope that I'm arriving at it as we're
Guanajuato.
Is that 100%. My greatest hope is that the draw for some of the new regulating bodies will be to go to those harder to reach areas, and that in the big picture, we will see a representation of tequila that shows a better job of all the regionality of where it can be made.
Yeah, that would be beautiful, and that would be great to see less pressure on that one state.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's call it a wrap.
I think now that my balls have finally dropped, I think...
Nope. Roy, help.
Okay, Linda, I will catch you next episode.
Hasta pronto at Is Was Brewing. Perfect.
You've been listening to Agave Road Trip, the critically acclaimed award-winning podcast that helps Gringex bartenders better understand agave spirits, and rural Mexico. We're blessed with sound engineering by Roy Sierra and a theme song performed by Gabriel Oliveira and Marco Ricos. Sign up to become a road tripper and listen to more episodes at agaveroadtrip.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, please let us know. And if you hated it, well, I'm sure you'll let us know that too. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at Agave Road Trip. Agave Road Trip is a production of 10 Angry Pit Bulls, Inc. Agave Road Trip is powered by Simplecast. Thank you for listening to Heritage Radio Network. Heritage Radio Network is food radio supported by you. For our freshest content, subscribe to our newsletter. To subscribe to the Heritage Radio newsletter, enter your email at the bottom of our website, heritageradionetwork.org. Connect with Heritage Radio Network on Instagram and Twitter at heritage_radio. You can also find Heritage Radio Network at facebook.com/Heritage Radio Network. Heritage Radio Network is a nonprofit organization using the power of educational storytelling about food to build a more equitable, resilient food system. Heritage Radio Network couldn't do that without support from listeners like you. Become a part of the world's most innovative community today. Subscribe to the shows you like. Tell your friends. And please join the Heritage Radio Network family by becoming a member. To become a member of the Heritage Radio Network, click on the beating heart of our homepage. Heritage Radio Network can become addictive. Programming you hear on Heritage Radio Network might lead you to eat, drink, and listen to more programming on Heritage Radio Network. If you drink, please do not drink and drive. Drink responsibly. Drive responsibly. Eat responsibly too. And listen to Heritage Radio Network responsibly. To listen to Heritage Radio Network responsibly, wear protective earbuds. While wearing protective earbuds, do not drive. Do not walk either. Sit in a comfortable chair. If that comfortable chair has a hard seat, please remember to stretch every 30 minutes. If you stretch every 30 minutes, please stay within your defined stressing capacity. And consult a doctor who specializes in stretching. If you don't have a doctor, maybe Dr. Ryan A. Cox, the Cocktail MD, can help you out. Thanks for listening. Agave Road Trip out.